What is up, everybody? Today I just had to make a video. Runeterra just released 10 new cards, and it's one of those hodgepodge batch of cards that they release every set that's just kind of filling in extra cards, but giving every region just something to play with, even the regions that aren't getting a champion this set, and there's some spicy stuff in this one. So let's dive right in. First up, we have Field Promotion. It's a 2-mana burst spell for Demacia. It is, the next time you play a unit this round, grant it Scout. It's now an elite. So both of those seem like permanent buffs to me. So grant Scout, so you just make any unit you want a Scout, which is incredibly strong, and it also gets elite. We don't have to really talk about how much synergy Scout has. Scout has synergy across the board. It's one of the most, versatile keywords out there. It can absolutely devastate opponents. Put this on a big challenger unit. It's amazing. Put this on a barrier unit that you're about to summon. It's going to get a free attack. If they chump it, then they're going to have to chump it twice, essentially. It's super good. There really isn't a whole lot that grants Scout. So having something that does it now is really good, especially something that does it this wide. It can just grant any unit Scout that you want, and that's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So I'm super excited about this card. You combine it with the other elite shenanigans they already have, right? Giving an ally challenger like you did with Renekton and Jarvan for a little bit. Now imagine Renekton's like at a Scout. You can level him in one turn. You're just swinging him out there. Field Promotion's wonky. I think this card's very, very good. 2 mana is a competitive spot for Demacia. They like to run single combat. They like to run a sharp sight, but there's going to be some decks that really want to play around with this Field Promotion, so I'm excited to see those decks come out. Next up, we got the Fabled Poro. He's a 4-drop, another Poro for Freljord, so they do have multiple Poros now, quite a bit actually. And he's a 2/5, which is pretty interesting stats. When I'm summoned, grant all ally Poros a random keyword. So that will include himself, which is pretty cool. And if you have a board that's, decently filled with Poros, it's a pretty RNG, heavy effect, but it could end up being really strong, right? Works, the Heart of the Fluffed is a card that's going to eat all those Poros and then gain all those keywords. So you could just, turn 4, play Braum, make him take damage. Turn 5, play Fabled Poro, give your whole board random buffs. Turn 6, summon a massive giant combined Poro with 1,000 different keywords that are, slightly random, but still, it's not bad. For the people who want to play Poros, that's an option. It's definitely out there, and it's a decent stat line. It does compete with like Braum at that effect, but yeah, in a straight Poro deck, I could definitely see him seeing some play. So he's pretty sweet. Does kind of tease, he looks like Ornn coming out, maybe. So maybe we're going to have Ornn later. I don't know, he's awesome. He's just Blacksmith Poro. He's super BA. So then we got the Abdominable Guardian Yeti. He's pretty sweet. He's an 8-drop Yeti. So Freljord got love for Yetis and Poros, which is really sweet. That's what I love about these batches. They give love to old archetypes and just really well. So this guy's a 5/5, which is pretty standard, right? We see almost all the Yetis have 5/5 as their stat line. Abdominable Guardian here, and it's a round start. If you have 2+ Yetis, summon me from hand and create a copy of me in your deck. So it does seem like you're just going to drop him out as long as you have 2 Yetis, which is pretty good. There's not a whole lot of Yetis out there right now. You have the 1-drop Yeti, and then you have the Enraged Yetis that you can try to use with the Trapper or with the other Yeti card, but it does give some interesting love to that archetype and getting this guy out. And when you play it, you draw another Yeti, and you could draw himself again. That's pretty sweet because he's shuffling another version of himself in the deck. It's a pretty solid card. He doesn't have any finishing power. He himself doesn't have Overwhelm or anything that's going to help him finish in that way. But he's a 5/5 that should come out pretty early with his ability and will also fill your deck up with more Yetis, which can be problematic because you can kind of thin your deck too much. But also, you get to draw one on play. That really helps that archetype because a lot of times you're just drawing 1-cost 5/5 Yetis, and that's great. But eventually, if they can handle it, you don't have a way to finish, and you really are seeing no cards. You can't use your mana efficiently because they're just 1 cost, and he might help with that. Next up, we do get another Blade Dance card. So don't get too triggered, but there is one more Blade Dance card coming here. It's a 4-cost slow spell. Recall a unit, Blade Dance 1. Very reminiscent of Will of Ionia, which is pretty interesting. It's a recall at slow, so not fast. Will of Ionia used to cost 4 as well. It costs 5 now. But it just recalls 1 unit, and then you get the Blade Dance 1. I don't think this is going to see a whole lot of play. It is interesting. You get to recall an opposing unit, which is great, and you still get a Blade Dance off, which is really solid. But what Homecoming does in Azir Aurelia is provide a really good counter at fast speed, and I think going to slow speed is going to really hurt. So I don't think it's going to see a whole lot of play, at least not over Homecoming. I could be dead wrong, but and the Blade Dance could be important. You don't have to recall your own unit, but they kind of like that synergy anyway. They normally get to save a unit and kill and remove something as well for 4 mana. So I can't see this right now taking its place. But it is a solid card. I think slow speed really hurts what that deck's trying to do. So we'll have to see if it sees play anywhere else. One of my personal favorite cards here, probably my second favorite, is Heavens Aligned. I love Daybreak. Daybreak's one of my favorite archetypes. So is Nightfall. So this is a super speed card. It's another focus speed spell, which is great. It's a 1-cost Targon card. Daybreak, create a random non-champion Nightfall card in hand. And Nightfall, create a random non-champion Daybreak card in hand. So you get, obviously not a champion, but there's plenty of good spells and units in both of those archetypes. Really some of the strongest units in the game are Daybreak for their value, right? You get another Raven, and you can get another, Solari Sunforger, so you get more lifesteal for the Nightfall side. You can get a Doom Beast, you can get an Onlooker, and then there's, of course, a couple weird ones as well in there. But there's a lot of strong units in there, and for 1 mana at burst speed, to be able to get something like that is really, really helpful. I think this really would go great. I'm really excited just to actually play a Night and Day deck with Leona and Diana again. This card's great for that, right? If you have Raven out, you can essentially play another card, then play this, and get both the Daybreak and the Nightfall. So for 1 mana at focus speed, you're getting 2 cards. That's crazy good value, and Raven's already giving you a card when he gets played. It's just a lot of value there, and you can really just kind of grind out games with Targon that way. So this card is probably my second favorite out of this whole batch. I think this is going to be very well met in a lot of different decks. Really, just if you're playing Nightfall, why not just, even just if you're just playing Nightfall. 1 mana, you get a Nightfall card, because you're Daybreaking this card, which is fitting into your theme anyway, and now you set up to play that Nightfall card for 1 mana. So it's not just like it has to work in Daybreak, or just Daybreak and Nightfall. It just works great in either. So I think this card's really, really good, and I'm extremely excited to play around with it. We then have the Starlight Epiphany, which is an interesting one here. It's a 3 mana burst. It says invoke, so it's a flat invoke, could invoke anything, big or small. If you have a Celestial ally, replace your deck with 20 copies of Behold the Infinite. That's pretty interesting. Essentially, you get to get a random invoke, something, like I said, it could be a game-finishing thing, it could be a small Serpent or Silence, something like that. And then you replace your entire deck with Behold the Infinite, which is a 2-cost, also burst speed spell that just open invokes, so it can invoke anything as well. So at that point, you're just, you're a little behind on mana, you have to spend 2 mana, but every turn, you get to just play that and pick 3 cards and do that. You don't replace your hand, you just replace your deck. So it's kind of interesting that way. It is a really good counter for the Watcher. So if the Watcher's going to blow up your deck, you just replace your deck with 20 copies of Behold the Infinite, and then boom, that really does help. You still have to deal with the Watcher eventually, but you get to essentially bring your deck from 0 cards back up to 20, which is pretty solid. And it's a decent counter, maybe as like a 1-of in some decks. And of course, there's some just absolute shenanigans with Victor and other created cards, and just created synergy in general, as well as just leveling up Zoe by playing a bunch of different cards. Because you're going to be, you're playing Behold the Infinite, but it's invoking, 3 different options. So you can really just keep picking different options. And obviously, if you do level Victor before you play that, and then you have this, all of the Behold the Infinites only cost 1, and everything you invoke costs 1 less. And if you have the Allegiance unit, the Mountain Scryer, then everything you're invoking costs 2 less with him. So there is some crazy shenanigans that I'll definitely be trying with Victor as well, and that invoke package. So I think it's pretty fun. I'm not sure, I think maybe the most competitive aspect of it could be like maybe running it as like a 1-of, just as an option to kind of counter like milling strategies. Up next, we got some Noxus cards. These ones are pretty wild. We have a 4 burst speed, give an ally +5/+0 this round, just for 4. Kind of interesting. I think it's a little bit more interesting now than it would have been before with Rek'Sai coming out, since she needs to strike, or needs to just attack with 10 power. This is +5. She's a 3 attack already, and she attacks and buffs herself if you have a lurk, and then if you lurk on top, that's +2. And then this is +5, so that's just a leveled Rek'Sai on turn 4 with Noxus. Again, who knows if Noxus and Lurker is going to actually work all right, if Shurima is going to have enough support for that type of thing. But just saying, you can run Elixir of Wrath and then like this type of card, and you could really buff Rek'Sai quickly, and she could just level up super fast. And that's pretty threatening. She's a 4/7 who's going to get very thick very quick and just continue. And she gets overwhelmed when she's leveled, and she's going to just roll people over. So that's my biggest interest with this. There's Elixir of Wrath for 1 mana, which is +3. So this is 4 mana for +5, but all in one card. That's pretty important. +5 from just one card is a lot. So I do think it had to be placed around 4 mana. At 3, I think this actually could be like a little busted. So glad to see it at 4. This next guy's nuts. This art is absolutely incredible. Atikan, Bringer of Ruin. He's a 10-drop Overwhelm unit. He's a 5/12, so a 10-drop in Noxus is pretty awesome. And he's a 5/12, so kind of weird stats. On attack, you increase my power by the total power of all allies. So that should include himself. So he should just attack and automatically be at least a 10 with Overwhelm if you have him. But if you have any other units as well, that's a lot of power. So this gives some Noxus stall strategy a little bit. This is a lot of power increase here. And he's got printed Overwhelm. He is a 10-drop. So this is what he should do. He should come on the board and he should end a game. That's what he should do, and he's going to do that. It's just Noxus doesn't really have a great way to stay alive that long for that, and Noxus really hasn't seen control that much, so I'm not sure if it's going to be competitively viable. He is going to end the game if he sees the table, so maybe you just really put him in there and run full control from another region so you can do it. It's interesting. There's obviously a lot of counters to him as well, but he definitely is a threat and will end the game very quickly. Kind of like a souped-up battering ram for Noxus, so I definitely like the vibe of him. Then we got 2 more, and we get Shadow Isle cards, which I think are always super fun to play with. I know Shadow Isles is a little bit of a hot topic. A lot of people get frustrated with the power level of that region, but the first card here is a little bit more fun than anything. It's called the Twisted Tree Line, which is a nice shout-out to the 3v3 mode of League. That map was called the Twisted Tree Line, and if you guys remember that, then you're old as well. But that is a fun mode, and this is a fun card. It's a 3-drop landmark, so Shadow Isles get another landmark. Once I've seen 3 fearsome allies attack, destroy me to summon the Vile Maul. So it's pretty fun that you actually get to see the Vile Maul here again. We haven't seen that in a while. There's that card that if you have allies die in a turn, you can summon the Vile Maul, which is awesome. It's like a 5/5 with Fearsome, or 6/6, I believe. So it's really sweet just bringing that card back as well. Like I said, these batches of cards do so well at doing that. You got Yetis, Poros, you have the Vile Maul, you have Daybreak and Nightfall. You have these things that are being brought back to life a little bit with these releases, so they really excite me. As far as a card, it should be pretty easy to actually trigger this. You only need to see 3 allies attack with Fearsome. You're playing Spiders, you get that done. You're playing Nightfall, you get that done. I just don't know if it's really worth it. I don't know if you need the 3 mana. If you need to spend the 3 mana, unit mana too. You can't use spell mana on a landmark. So you have to play 3 unit mana to then get a bigger unit, but you also have to wait and let it attack. It just seems a little bit awkward timing-wise, so I doubt it sees any competitive play just based on that. But I do like that they put it out there, and maybe there is this more slower type Fearsome style deck that will run away with it. And Shurima might get more Fearsome support at some point down the line as well. So who knows? We could have something like that happen as well. This last card I think is going to be my favorite. It is close. Heavens Aligned is really fun, but Astral Fox is awesome. His art is absolutely crazy. He's like siphoning this dude. It's super sweet. He's a 4-drop 3/3 with Fearsome, so there's some Fearsome tag. Weak stats, obviously, kind of like the Chronicler of Ruin, but he has a skill on play. You kill an ally to deal 3 to the enemy Nexus. I think a lot of people underestimated the Doom Beast when it came out, and the Doom Beast is incredible. It's so much extra burn damage over the top, and now you have Unto Dusk, and we have Stalking Shadows to just repeat that effect so many times, and Fading Memories, and etc. etc. So there's no way I'm going to underrate burn damage in Shadow Isles. There's so much that has done wonders for that archetype in Shadow Isles, that mid-range finishing ability like Nightfall had, and I've been playing Kyrian Mist lately as well, and that's a deck using the Posse, and then also just Mist Wraiths and a ton of Doom Beast and Fading Memories and Iterative Improvement and Stalking Shadows and Unto Dusk, just to spam out that Doom Beast ability. So dealing 3 of the Nexus is massive, and you have to kill an ally, so they can counter it by killing that ally in the meantime. And this does cost 4, but I still think this card's amazing. It just, at the end of the game, when you don't really care about anything else, you're just trying to push that Nexus damage through. Run 2 Astral Foxes, and you'll get 3 extra damage. I think this card's really good, and I think a lot of people are going to sleep on it, just like they slept on the Doom Beast. And I don't think it should be. I think it's a very, very solid card. And I think 3 damage is nothing to laugh at. That's a lot of Nexus damage. So that's my quick review of these cards here, guys. If you're interested, this site is RuneterraCCG.com. They do sponsor our podcast as well. And they have the deck builder ready to go. You can build with these cards today. So if you want to craft a Poro deck or something with field promotion, you can go right on their site, craft it, and get a deck code that you'll be ready to use as soon as the set drops. So make sure to check that out. And I'll be doing more videos all week of all these reveals. And if you want to hear about these cards from the person who designed them, check out our next episode of the podcast, episode 68. We'll be having the designer, Riot G Major, of all of this set 3 on for the 3rd time on our cast, and we'll be talking about every single one of these cards in detail. So make sure to check that out, and until next time, guys, stay fresh.